I had just managed to get my daughter to sleep when my phone rang. It was my mom, Brenda, sobbing like someone had died. "Sarah," she wailed, "your father posted 10 photos of Lily on Facebook this month, but only one of me. Does he think Lily is more important than his own wife?" I rubbed my temples, already feeling a migraine bloom. "Mom. It was a kindergarten assignment. Please stop reading into everything." Not even 5 minutes later, she called again. "I just checked the credit card statement," she said, voice sharp through her tears. "Your dad spent twice as much on Lily as he did on me. Don't bring the kid over next month." I can't even look at her right now. "Fine," I said, barely holding back a scream. "Whatever." Honestly, if anyone was going to be furious about missing his granddaughter, it would be my dad, not me. I finally drifted off, only to be jolted awake by a ringtone loud enough to wake the dead. "Sarah," Brenda whispered, breathless and wired. "I can't sleep. You need to arrange a marriage for Lily tomorrow. Find her a fiancé. Once she belongs to another family, your dad won't be able to get too attached." My brain short-circuited. I sat bolt upright. Are you seriously competing with a 5-year-old? She's a child. An arranged marriage? What is this, medieval times? If you can't sleep, drink some water, listen to a podcast, I don't care, just stop calling me. I hung up, convinced my anger would finally shut her down. Brenda was usually all fragile sighs and wounded silence. I didn't think she'd actually do anything reckless. I was wrong. The next morning, my phone looked like it had exploded. Hundreds, then more, notifications stacked on top of each other until everything lagged. Our family group chat was basically unusable. My anxiety spiked. Brenda was 50 and had high blood pressure. If she'd stayed up all night spiraling, she could genuinely make herself sick. I called her back immediately. She answered with shaky sobs. "Sarah, are you just like your father now? You've got Lily, so you don't care about me at all. I poured my heart out all night and you didn't reply once." I balanced the phone on my shoulder while I brushed my teeth. "Mom, not everyone is retired. I have a job. And Lily has preschool." "Lily, Lily, Lily," Brenda screeched. "It's always about her. I get it. Your mother means nothing to you." I closed my eyes. Ever since I became a mom, Brenda had acted like a toddler was going to steal her spotlight. Then she launched into one of her old rants, her voice turning bitter and paranoid. "You know how your father is," she hissed. Women always hovered around him. When he was a teacher, those girls were constantly finding excuses to be near him. "I'm telling you, keep Lily away. For her own good." Something hot and ugly rose in my chest. "Mom, do you really want to dig up the past?" I asked quietly. I could see it like a photograph, the school hallway, the whispers, my face burning with humiliation. "That student went to Dad's office for map help," I said. "You were the one who barged in screaming, accusing them of having an affair. You cost him his job. You made me a joke at school. That was the darkest time of my childhood." Brenda fell silent. My dad, David, had survived because he refused to let it crush him. He cleared his name, walked away from teaching, started a business from scratch, and eventually became a well-known CEO. If he hadn't been strong enough to rebuild, all of us would have been crushed under her drama. I could almost see Brenda remembering how she'd sobbed and begged him not to file for divorce back then. But instead of reflecting, she doubled down. "Sarah," she said stubbornly, "I'm serious. Getting Lily engaged early is a good thing. Powerful families do it all the time. Kids from those circles all have promised partners before they're even teenagers. If you wait, the good husbands will be gone. And if Lily is taken, nobody will get any ideas about her." It all came back to the same sick paranoia, this idea that my father's love for his granddaughter was something dangerous that had to be blocked. I looked at Lily in the bathroom mirror, washing her face and smiling at me, pure, innocent, completely unaware of the storm circling her. My heart went cold. "Stay out of my daughter's future," I said, each word clipped. "If you bring this up again, I'll tell Dad every single thing you've said. And we'll see if he finally has enough." Brenda exploded, calling me ungrateful and cruel. I hung up. I scooped Lily into my arms, kissed her soft cheek, and breathed in the warm scent of her shampoo like it could anchor me. That morning, I personally handed her off to her preschool teacher, Made sure she toddled inside safe and smiling, then went to work, hoping the day would swallow the drama whole. It didn't. Around 3, my phone rang. It was the teacher. "Mrs. Sarah?" Her voice was tight. "Is your mother's name Brenda?" "She's here with a man we don't recognize, extremely agitated, insisting on taking Lily. We need you to come immediately." My blood went to ice. I abandoned my meeting and drove like my life depended on it. At the gate, a crowd of parents stood in a loose circle, watching like they'd stumbled onto a live episode of some unhinged reality show. Brenda was in the center, wailing, mascara smeared, hair wild, pointing at the staff like they were criminals. "You don't understand," she cried. "My daughter doesn't care about this child's safety at all. I told her Lily is far too close to my husband. It's not normal. Something is wrong." Her words were frantic and disjointed, half accusation, half performance. The teacher tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, grandparents hugging their grandchildren is normal. And per our policy, we can only release a child to their parents or authorized guardians. I am her grandmother." Brenda screamed. "I would never hurt her." Then she lunged toward Lily. Lily shrieked and ducked behind the teacher's legs, clinging to her like a lifeline. "I'm taking her." Brenda howled. "Call the police." "I don't care." For a moment, she didn't look like my mother at all. She looked like someone twisted by jealousy and fear until there was nothing human left on the surface. I pushed through the circle, grabbed Lily, and held her so tight I could feel her little heartbeat slamming against my chest. "Mom," I said, voice shaking but controlled, "if you have a problem with Dad, talk to him. But you are not dragging Lily into your obsession. And you are not taking her anywhere." I forced a strained smile at the teacher and, with one hand, transferred a small thank you via my phone's payment app. "I'm so sorry," I said, throat burning. "Thank you for protecting her." I buckled Lily into her car seat with trembling fingers and started the engine. Brenda hurled herself onto the hood. I slammed the brakes, my heart trying to punch through my ribs. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted out the window. "If I hadn't stopped in time, you could have been seriously hurt." Then hit me. She screamed louder, grabbing the attention of every passerby. Phones went up like a forest of black rectangles. "My life is meaningless since that little fox was born. Your father only cares about her now. He bought her a gold necklace for her first birthday. We've been married 40 years and I've never gotten anything like that." I shook, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. "We were broke back then," I shouted back. "And when Dad tried to buy you something last year, you threw it away." She didn't hear me, or refused to. She snatched a phone from someone who was live streaming, flipped the camera around, and jammed it toward Lily's tear-streaked face. "Look," she yelled to the unseen audience. "Look at this little homewrecker. She's stealing my husband. And her mother is just as bad." I swatted the phone down and threw my jacket over Lily's head, shielding her. "Why do you hate her so much?" I demanded, my voice cracking. "She's your granddaughter. She's 5. Brenda's pupils were blown wide, like she wasn't entirely here. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a cold whisper only I could hear. "This house only needs one woman," she said. "Me." Every drop of blood in my body seemed to turn to ice. Suddenly, I wasn't 30-something Sarah anymore. I was small again, standing in my childhood bedroom, staring at a pretty doll my dad had bought me. I remembered the sting when I hugged it, the red dots blooming on my fingers. I remember tearing it open and finding needles shoved into the stuffing. Her laughter rang in my ears. "Don't take gifts from men," she'd told me. "You'll just get hurt." I remembered the night my dad hoisted me onto his shoulders to watch fireworks, how light and happy I'd felt, until we came home and Brenda ripped my clothes off, hitting me with a wooden board and forcing me to crawl laps on the floor while she hissed, "Don't grow up to be the kind of girl who tempts people." She had never seen me as a daughter. I'd been competition from the day I was born. Looking at her now, wild and unhinged in the middle of the street, something in me finally snapped. "Fine," I said, my voice frighteningly calm. "You want to be the only woman? You can have it." Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "We're done. You're not Lily's grandmother anymore. You got what you wanted. You're alone." My dad and my husband, Mark, were overseas on a high-stakes, confidential business deal, something that could change everything for our family. Time zones and non-stop meetings had made them almost unreachable. Feeling raw and completely unsafe, I dropped Lily at my best friend's house with enough explanations to get her on my side, then headed to my parents' place to grab some documents and clothes. I needed space. I needed a plan. When I pulled up to their villa, the front door stood wide open. A chill slid down my spine. Inside, the living room smelled faintly of smoke. Brenda stood in the center with three strange men, slowly circling a small, blackened pile of burned yellow paper on the floor. Lily's pink princess dress was spread out nearby, alongside her favorite baby bowl, both stained with something dark, dried in eerie patterns. It didn't look like a mess. It looked like a ritual. My legs went weak. I charged forward and kicked through the ashes, sending flakes and half-burned scraps flying. "What are you doing?" I shouted, my voice cracking. Brenda turned to me with a smile that made my skin crawl, soft, almost coaxing, like I'd just walked in on her decorating for a party. "Sweetie," she said lightly, reaching for my hand, "I've been thinking." I overreacted. "Let's not tell your father about the scene at preschool, okay? No need to upset him." My stomach twisted. "I'm not arranging a marriage for Lily anymore," she added in a breezy tone. "Not with a living boy, anyway. This is just symbolic." One of the men, a stocky guy with slick back hair and a smirk, tilted his chin toward a duffel bag at his feet. "The Miller family's little grandson died," Brenda continued. "They wanted a spirit bride. It's tradition for them. I asked the master to check compatibility. He said if Lily is promised to that boy, she won't attract attention from other men. Your father will look at me again. It's just a small favor for your mom." My vision went spotty. "You did not," I whispered. She nodded toward the duffel bag. "They're generous. Consider it a bride price." The man towed the bag closer, as if he were sliding a prize across a poker table. A stray ember in the ash pile flickered back to life for a second, glowing a strange, murky color. Maybe it was just the lighting. Maybe it was my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. I stared at Lily's stained dress and bowl, at the ashes of whatever they just burned for their ceremony, and I started shaking so hard my teeth almost chattered. "Get out." My voice came out low and dangerous. "All of you. Right now." Brenda's smile vanished. "You complain when I try to find her a living fiancé," she snapped. "You complain when I try to protect her. You just want her free so she can cling to your father and steal him from me." "She's 5, I roared. "She doesn't steal anyone. She thinks of you as family, not as some twisted rival. You are the one turning everything ugly." The men shifted, suddenly nervous, glancing at one another. Their little side hustle had clearly just gone from easy money to potential police report. They started edging toward the door. As the stocky man passed me, he shrugged, not even bothering to lower his voice. "Doesn't matter. The ceremony's already done. Can't undo it now. Kids like that don't usually last long anyway." My stomach flipped. For one horrifying moment, my gaze landed on one of my dad's power tools leaning against the wall, a heavy electric trimmer he used in the garden. My hand twitched toward it. I could almost see myself grabbing it, doing something violent and irreversible, making them pay for even speaking about my child like that. My phone rang. The sound shattered the moment. I snatched it up like a lifeline. "Sarah?" Mark's voice was raw with panic. "Dad and I just saw clips from a stream. Don't be scared. We're on the first flight home. We'll be there as soon as we can." I couldn't hold it in anymore. A sob tore out of my throat. "Mark," I choked, "Mom. She did something to Lily. Some kind of ceremony. They said she won't live long." He sucked in a sharp breath. "Listen to me. Don't let anyone near her. Don't argue with your mother anymore. Just protect Lily. We're coming home. I promise." After hanging up, I didn't send Lily back to preschool for days. I barely let her out of my sight. I collected every item that could possibly be connected to that ritual, the burned scraps, the stained dress, the bowl, and started hunting for anyone, anywhere, who might know how to undo whatever Brenda had set in motion. I didn't even know if I believed in rituals like that. But my mother had crossed so many lines, I couldn't just shrug it off. Before I found anyone who sounded remotely legitimate, Lily spiked a fever. At first, I thought it was just a bug. Kids catch everything. But the fever climbed, high and fast, cooking her little body from the inside. She curled up in a corner, eyes dull, flinching away even from my touch, like she was retreating somewhere I couldn't follow. "Mommy," she whispered once, voice hoarse, "my head hurts. I'm scared." My chest felt like it was being carved open. I grabbed my keys, wrapped her in a blanket, and rushed her toward the hospital. We never made it inside. In the underground parking lot, a dark SUV swung across my path and blocked my lane. Another pulled up behind me, trapping my small sedan in a metal cage. The stocky man from my parents' house stepped out, flicking ash from a cigarette. The Miller guy. His gaze drifted over my feverish child in the back seat, and something almost like satisfaction flashed across his face. "Looks like the little one's fading faster than I thought," he said. "Good. There's still time to bury her with our boy." My heart stopped. Brenda appeared beside him, pale and frantic, but her eyes were resolved. Like she'd already made a choice. "Sarah," she said, almost pleading, "you heard him? Just give Lily to them. You and Mark are young. You can have another baby. A son, this time. A boy won't cause these problems." I stared at her like she'd sprouted horns. From the back seat, Lily's small body suddenly jerked, her limbs twitching uncontrollably. She let out a thin, broken cry that didn't sound like her at all. My vision tunneled. "I'm taking my daughter to the hospital," I said, my voice shaking violently. "Move your cars. Now." No one moved. The Miller man leaned on the hood of my car as if we had all the time in the world. "You're not going anywhere. This has to be done right. You want her to just waste away slowly? We're offering a proper send-off. A place with our young master. It's an honor. If I didn't get her help, she could die. If I stayed, she could die." Every second ticked by like a hammer against bone. "Get out of the way," I screamed. "If you don't move, I'll drive through you. I swear I will." He snorted. Then he did something I'll never forget. He shoved Brenda directly in front of my hood. "Go ahead," he taunted. "Hit the gas. It's your own mother. Let's see who you love more, her or that kid." My hands locked on the steering wheel. This question had haunted our house my entire life, and never in such literal form. Who's more important, me or your father? Who matters more, me or Lily? Every storm in our family had started with some version of that question. My mind fractured under the strain. Behind me, Lily whimpered, then stiffened again, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Time folded into one terrible choice. I pressed the gas. The world exploded into metal shrieks and screams. The SUVs rocked under the impact as I rammed one aside. The momentum jerked Brenda off her feet. She tumbled to the ground, rolling across the concrete. My chest heaved. I couldn't feel my own body. I only knew I'd carved a narrow gap just wide enough for my car to squeeze through. Before I could lunge forward, my door flew open from the side. "Sarah." "Mark." He yanked the driver's door wide and pulled me halfway out, his hand immediately pressing over my shaking shoulders. "I'm here," he said over and over, his voice a low, steady anchor. "I've got you. You did what you had to do." I tried to speak, but my words came out as a broken mess. Lily. She's burning up. She keeps convulsing. Mark, I'm scared. I'm so scared." My right hand throbbed with a deep, distant pain. I glanced down and realized I'd shoved my fingers between Lily's teeth earlier to keep her from biting her tongue. My palm was raw, torn, speckled with blood. I hadn't even felt it happen. Mark's jaw clenched as he took in Lily's ashen face, my shaking body, the blocked cars, Brenda shrieking on the pavement. I saw something dark flicker behind his eyes, rage, cold and focused. He slid me into the passenger seat, buckled Lily in tighter, and slammed the door. Outside, Brenda struggled to her feet, still screaming curses. "Mark, are you insane?" she shrieked. "I'm your mother-in-law. You dare hit me? You'll be punished for this. God will strike you down. Nobody is taking Lily away. Nobody." The back of my neck went clammy. If Mark hadn't arrived when he did, I don't know how far I would have gone. He didn't bother answering her. He just gave a sharp, humorless laugh, reversed hard enough to jolt everyone around us, and shot through the gap I'd created. In the side mirror, I saw Brenda lunge, only to be held back by my dad, David, who must have just arrived. Beyond that, everything blurred. At the hospital entrance, doctors and nurses were already waiting. Mark must have called ahead. They whisked Lily from my arms and rushed her toward the ER. I tried to follow, but my legs finally gave out. Mark eased me into a chair in the corridor and pressed my head against his shoulder. Only then did I realize I was sobbing, loud and messy, years of pain and fear pouring out at once. It wasn't just the terror of losing Lily. It was the brutal, stupid question that had shadowed my entire life. What did I do wrong to be hated like this by my own mother? Growing up, I thought if I just tried harder, got better grades, won more awards, stayed quiet and obedient, she would finally see me. Finally be proud of me. But every time my dad praised me, every time he smiled at one of my achievements, Brenda's eyes would darken. She'd search for tiny mistakes to explode into punishments. She'd make me kneel, write apology letters, ask if I was trying to take her place and become the woman of the house. As a kid, I didn't understand. I only knew that my presence seemed to provoke her. As an adult, all I could think was, what kind of mother sees her daughter as a rival? Mark's arm tightened around me. Hey, he murmured. Don't do this to yourself. This isn't your fault. Or Lily's. You did everything you could. You protected her. You're a hero, Sarah. Remember that. I stared at him through swollen eyes. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him, or I would fall apart. He and Dad will handle this, Mark said. Once things calm down, we'll make sure your mom gets treatment. Real treatment. She's already started hurting people. I'm not letting her stay near you or Lily anymore. I nodded, numb. Eventually, the ER doors swung open. Parents of Lily? The doctor called. We both lurched to our feet. The fever is down for now, he said. But her condition is still unstable. The cause is complicated. We recommend continued observation. We also need to ask some questions about what she's been exposed to recently. My fingers curled in Mark's sleeve. I told him everything, Brenda's accusations, the ritual, the Millers, the money, the threats in the garage. The doctor's expression darkened. He assured us they'd run all the necessary tests and noted every detail for the authorities. When we were finally allowed in, Lily looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, but her eyes were clearer. She smiled faintly at me. Mommy, she whispered, you're crying. I grabbed her tiny hand and pressed my forehead to it. Only a little, I said, forcing a laugh. You scared me, baby. But you're so strong. You're amazing. She studied my face for a long moment, then asked the one question I'd been dreading. Mom, why doesn't Grandma like me? Did I do something wrong? If I say sorry, will she stop yelling? I don't want you and Grandma to fight. My throat closed. I looked at my daughter, my bright, kind, undeserving child, and saw a mirror of my younger self, trying to make sense of a rejection that had never been her fault. You did nothing wrong, I said firmly. Do you hear me, Lily? Nothing. Grandma is unwell. She's making very bad choices. And some mistakes are so big they can't be fixed just by saying sorry. Her eyes filled with tears. So, we won't see Grandma anymore? I swallowed the ache in my chest. We're not going to see her for a long time, I said. Because my job is to protect you. Even from people who share our blood. Especially from them. Lily thought about it, then nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered, and for the first time in days, gave me a genuine, tiny smile. In that moment, I knew. The line had to be drawn here. For her. For me. A few days later, Lily's appetite improved. On the same day her fever truly broke, a news alert popped up on Mark's phone. My dad's company and Mark's had just announced a strategic partnership with the Miller Group, the same family who'd tried to claim my daughter as a grave offering. My heart clenched. This must have cost you and Dad so much, I said to Mark that night, guilt gnawing at me. All that work, and you're just handing it to them? Just to keep us safe? He flicked my forehead lightly. You really didn't listen to yourself, did you? He said. You tell Lily not to blame herself, but you take all the guilt for everyone's choices. Stop that. If anyone's to blame, it's the people who did wrong. He kissed my cheek. And also, he added, eyes glinting. Maybe you should wait before assuming we just rolled over. I frowned. What does that mean? He just smiled. You'll see. A few evenings later, Mark insisted I come with him to a business banquet. I didn't want to go. My nerves were still frayed. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. Just trust me, he said, straightening my dress. Consider it. Closure. The venue was an upscale hotel ballroom, all crystal chandeliers and muted music. The Miller man, Luke, apparently, was there, in an expensive suit, the picture of smug success. He raised a glass toward us with a cold little smile. Mr. Mark, he said as we approached, thank you for your generosity. I heard you and your father-in-law spent 2.5 years preparing this project, and then handed it to us at the last minute. We're truly humbled. My nails dug into my palm. I knew exactly how much work my father and Mark had poured into that contract. Sleepless nights. Missed holidays. All of it, seemingly signed away because my mother had invited wolves into our home. I forced my face to stay neutral. I didn't want Luke to see my anger and enjoy it. The banquet dragged on. People drank, laughed too loudly, glanced at their watches. Then, just as someone at our table murmured something about beating the traffic, the ballroom doors slammed open. A group of officers strode in, their presence instantly freezing the room. They walked straight up to Luke. Mr. Luke Miller, one of them said, voice clear and amplified by the stunned silence, you are under investigation for kidnapping, fraud, and multiple financial crimes. Please come with us. Cold metal clicked around his wrists before anyone could process what was happening. Luke's eyes went wide. He twisted around, his gaze locking onto Mark and me. You set me up, he snarled. You think this is over? When I get out? Mark lifted his champagne flute like they were still doing polite toasts, his expression almost bored. Enjoy the show, honey, he whispered in my ear. I promised you I'd handle it. It hit me then. The partnership. The apparent surrender of the project. It had all been bait, to make Luke confident, to get him to surface with his crimes still fresh, to tie everything together neatly for law enforcement. The officers led him out, his shouting growing fainter as the doors closed behind him. My knees went weak. You planned this, I said slowly, turning to Mark. You and Dad knew. And you didn't tell me. He winced a little. If we told you and something went wrong, you'd be devastated all over again. I wanted you to see results, not false hope. And anyway, he added, lips quirking, isn't watching it live much more satisfying than just hearing about it? I let out a shaky laugh despite myself. He laced his fingers through mine and guided me onto a quiet balcony. The cool night air washed over my overheated skin. Sarah, he said softly, wrapping his arms around me from behind, I meant what I said. I will not let anyone hurt you or Lily and walk away from it. Not strangers. Not business partners. Not even your mother. I went still. My mother. Ever since Lily had been admitted, I'd focused entirely on her recovery. I'd avoided asking about Brenda at all, terrified of the answer. Where is she? I asked finally. Mark exhaled slowly. We waited until Lily was stable. Then your dad and I signed the papers. She's in a private psychiatric facility outside the city. Secure, well-staffed. She can't hurt anyone there. My stomach twisted. I don't know how to face her, I admitted. Part of me still wants something. An apology. A reason. And part of me never wants to see her again. We'll go when you're ready, he said. Or not at all. That choice is yours. A week later, I told him I was ready. The facility sat on a quiet hillside, surrounded by trees and thin winter light. From the outside, it looked almost peaceful, like a retreat. Inside, the air smelled faintly of disinfectant and something harder to name, exhaustion, maybe. Or resignation. Brenda was in a single room with a large window. We stood on the other side of a pane of reinforced glass, watching her. She stared at me for a long time, her face slack and unreadable. Then, suddenly, her lips curled into a familiar, vicious smile. Sarah, she said, her voice muffled but clear even through the glass. I wish I'd choked you in your crib. None of this would have happened if you'd never been born. The words still hurt. I won't pretend they didn't. But instead of crumbling, I felt tired. So tired. Why? I asked quietly, more to myself than to her. Why do you hate me this much? Dad and I are your family. You're his wife. I'm his daughter. We were never supposed to be competing. I thought of all the years I'd begged for her approval in small, unconscious ways. All the times I'd looked for softness in her eyes and found only suspicion. If you hated the idea of having a daughter so much, I said, voice trembling but steady, why did you have me? Why not leave? Why not choose another life? Brenda suddenly surged forward, her face slamming up against the glass so hard I flinched. Do you think I wanted you? She snarled. When I found out you were a girl, it was already too late. If I'd tried to end it, I might have died too. And your father, he never loved me. He admitted it. Said what he felt for me was family, not love. Her eyes were wild, but there was something raw in them too. Something like a wound that had festered for decades. Once you were born, she spat, whatever love he had left went to you. Even the way he cared for us, it was more for you than for me. He looked at you with warmth. He just looked at me like an obligation. Why should you get that? Why should you exist at all? I stared at her, stunned. My parents had been married nearly 40 years. They barely even argued in front of me. I'd always assumed they were quietly happy. To hear her say my father didn't love her, that everything had been one-sided, was like having the floor pulled out from under me. But even then, the one question remained. What does that have to do with me? I asked. Or with Lily? You had problems with Dad. You should have talked to him, left him, done anything other than targeting your child and grandchild. We didn't take anything from you. You handed your happiness to one person and expected him to be your whole world. That's not on us. She froze. For a moment, it looked like my words had broken through. But then her face twisted again. I don't care, she muttered. It's your fault. It's her fault. Every woman near David should disappear. You. Your daughter. All of you. She turned away, muttering to herself, her figure shrinking as she walked toward the far wall. The doctor beside me sighed. She has severe delusional and paranoid disorder, he said gently. Likely with psychotic features. Please don't take her words as truth. If you could fully understand her logic, it would only mean your mind was breaking too. I let out a wet, choked laugh that was half sob, half relief. He was right. I couldn't fix her. Our lives would run parallel now, never touching again. That was the only way forward. Back at my dad's house, he seemed to have aged 10 years in a week. His hair looked more silver than I remembered. His shoulders drooped. I'm sorry, Sarah, he said, taking my hand. I should have divorced her a long time ago. I should have taken you away. He stared down at our joined hands as if memorizing them. When you were little, he said, I noticed she wasn't right. I thought it was just postpartum depression. I hired a therapist, then buried myself in work and believed the professionals had it handled. When you ran away in middle school, I finally realized how bad things were. She promised she'd change. I believed her. I didn't leave. That's on me. He got up slowly, walked to his bedroom, and returned with a worn notebook. It was a diary. He let me open it. Page after page, in his tight, careful handwriting, chronicled my childhood. Today, Sarah took her first steps. Brenda's arms must be so tired from holding her all day. Today, Sarah started first grade. Brenda slept in this morning, she must have needed the rest. Sarah got an award. I hope this makes Brenda proud too. Every line was about me, but every line also folded Brenda into it with this quiet, unassuming devotion. If this wasn't love, I didn't know what was. It also made one thing painfully clear: whatever had curdled inside my mother's mind had nothing to do with how much or how little love she'd been given. It had everything to do with what she decided to believe. She'd wanted more than anyone could ever give. And when reality didn't match her fantasy, she turned on me. I closed the diary and squeezed my dad's hand. It's over now, I said. You don't need to apologize anymore. He and Brenda divorced. But he didn't abandon her. He paid for the best facility he could find, visited her twice a month, and made sure the staff knew she had a family, no matter how broken the relationships were. Sometimes I went with him. Sometimes I didn't. Lily started elementary school. The memories of that terrible year blurred for her, softening around the edges. She remembered being sick, being scared, but mostly she remembered warm hands, hospital cartoons, and me never leaving her side. My dad and Mark had quietly handled the fallout from Brenda's live stream meltdown too, pulling strings to bury the worst of the footage before it could define Lily's life. One sunny afternoon, light poured through our bedroom window, painting everything gold. Mark stretched out beside me on the bed, slipped an arm around my waist, and pulled me into his chest. "Sarah," he murmured into my hair, "it's over. All of it. From now on, we get to choose our family. And as far as I'm concerned, from here on out, it's just happiness." For the first time in a long time, I believed him.